Hi, how we doing, folks? Your boy Marcus1205 numbers after the name. A little Wasteland Wednesday return here. Wasteland Wednesday, man. I've been playing on this for a minute, man. I got Modern Warfare 2 when it came out. Probably played it. I think I actually played it that Friday. I think it was like all for, I don't know. I had my work schedule worked out pretty good. Yeah, I want to say I did. I've been playing it pretty steady every week, a couple times since. I wanted to get this video out a lot sooner, but life happens and stuff. So as you know, the channel's kind of been on pause, but I'm hoping to get back in a little bit of a steadier rhythm over here as we try to kind of circulate what life will be like. But this is it's traditionally on the channel. I post my first Call of Duty game. I usually try to make sure it's a full game, but in this case, it was a pretty cool game that kind of like, you know, and you even see me changing some settings here to kind of make sure I'm like actually doing what I want to do. But this one was a pretty cool joint, like kind of halfway or a little bit once it started type game, and I put in some serious damage, made some turnarounds, so I wanted to share this. So this is me, my first time ever playing Modern Warfare 2. This is what it looks like, and it'll be funny to compare to next week when we put down some murder game. You already know how he's doing. Some opinions over here on the game. I got a lot of them. I think we get through them over here on the channel. I think the part that saves the game the most is that it is fun to play. It definitely has much more of a Modern Warfare kind of feel. I find it a little more entertaining than I did the original kind of Modern Warfare, as in the 2019 one. You know, the one that's not the original Modern Warfare, but the one that came out afterward. But not the Modern Warfare Remastered, but the actual Modern Warfare. Whatever. So I find it more fun than that. I think the maps and kind of color choices to me helps out a lot. It's still a little more on the duller side compared to a Treyarch game, but there is some vibrancy and at least there is some sort of color over here. Whereas I felt like in 2019, like I just remember like that Afghan map, I think it was, with like the caves and stuff, and it was dark and it was cool. You could use night vision, but at the same time, I was like, it just doesn't work. I never got fully into that game, but the time to kill is very, very similar to my eyes to that, and that's always something I've been a little bit about. I'm always a little bit more in favor of the time to kill in Treyarch games. But it works for what it is if you know what you're getting yourself into. It's a Modern Warfare game for its good parts and its bad parts. But I do feel that overall, the map design, at least as these few handful of maps that we have, is pretty solid. With the exception maybe of that one with all the cars and stuff in it. I think it takes place across the Mexican border. That map's kind of wild. The rest are pretty solid. And, you know, the gameplay and there's fun aspects to it, sure, works. Now, some stuff that doesn't work. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that doesn't work. For starters, when the game came out, I felt like it was the most bare-bone Call of Duty it definitely was the most bare-bone Call of Duty I've ever seen. I mean, maybe the original Modern Warfare, not the one that came out in 2019, but the original Modern Warfare was a little more bare-bones than that. Like, we couldn't even check, like, our KD. And even to this day, there's a basic kind of place that you could check it. It's buried in a couple menus. The UI of this game, to me, is borderline terrible. It gets the job done, but man, like, how to understand how to do some things is a little bit complicated. Or where to find some things, even something as simple as a combat record, a little bit tricky to find. So UI-wise, not great. When it came out, I felt like it was just missing a ton of basic stuff that needed to be in a game. There are a lot of small pet peeves I could have with things. For example, the scoreboard in the match doesn't show your deaths, I believe, in any mode. I mean, it shows like different things depending on which mode, but I don't think there's a single mode that shows the death. I actually unlocked a charm on my gun that you could attach that shows you how many kills and deaths you have, and that's how I tell. Two things on that. One, I think it wasn't in Cold War either. I didn't really play Vanguard, so I don't know what it was in that, but it's been a while since they put deaths in. I assume it's just to make people feel better about themselves. They're like, oh, you got 10 kills, and who cares how many times you died? Maybe there's people that feel that way. Maybe they don't. I'm not one of those people. I can tell you that right now. I'd prefer to know kind of how I'm doing in a game and have a general idea. It's my first water encounter here, by the way. I was like, I figured I'd just melee him. Oh, he figured that too. All right. But water mechanics actually pretty solid in this game. Not gonna lie. We can circle back on that. But it might be a very minor thing to say, hey, I wish like my score of the game, the scoreboard showed me how many deaths I have. But to me, it's pretty consequential because although I have a feel in a match as to how I'm doing, sometimes there's definitely times where I feel like I'm doing worse than I am, and I'll click on and be like, oh man, I'm killing it, and maybe I'll play a little bit riskier. Or other times where I'll be like, I thought I was doing well, and then I checked all of a sudden, I'm like, yo, I'm like even. Like, I'm not even doing that well. Maybe I should sit back over here and kind of rethink my strategy over here. And I don't have the option to do that right now. Well, right now I do because I have that silly charm that I unlocked. But it should be just a de facto thing of base stats. Or even, I would plant this, and maybe it's too complicated to do, even I can't imagine it is, we're literally just talking about numbers, but I would leave it optional to the player. At least I have the ability to customize it. Put whatever you want on there, because I could care less like what my score is of the match. Like, what the hell do I care what my score is? That doesn't do anything for me. I'd much rather know my like KD on it. So I'd much prefer if that was customizable to a certain extent of where you could put like just some basic stuff on there. One thing. Two things, I mean, the game crashes, doesn't run that great sometimes. Overall, it's okay. Connection-wise, you can definitely feel different sometimes. Those are all kind of normal Call of Duty boo-boos that like will get fixed hopefully over time. I think 6v6, which is kind of what I've been playing the whole time from the base multiplayer, needs more maps. Now, I'm not even going to get too angry about this, because if you've played a Call of Duty in recent years, you kind of know how this goes. The base game comes out with very little maps, and then by the time the game's over, there's a ton of maps. I imagine this will be the same case, but there's also no reason why there couldn't be a couple more maps here to start. And, even thinking about the first two maps that they're adding here, Shoot House and then Shipment, those aren't even new maps, those are just remakes of old maps, or hell, just even bringing them up too. I don't even know how much is remade in them. There should be more maps, especially for the 6v6 side. It's getting to the point where it's a little bit kind of tedious to keep playing them, especially when, some of them, they're all okay, but none of them are, like, great. I can't tell you that I'm like, yo, this is my new favorite map, but they're all pretty solid for what they are. So I don't want to harp on the maps too badly. There is a little bit more mantling in the game than you kind of expect. I feel like you mantle maybe a little bit slow, but I think the mechanic works, and I'm not too angry about that. I do feel that calling basic streaks takes, like, a stupid amount of time. Like, UAVs, like, you have to, like, pull out, like, this tablet thing and call it. I don't know. I might be wrong on that, but comparing it to all the Call of Duty, it feels like everything is just a little bit sluggish. Lastly, one of the big pet peeves I had, especially when the game first came out, was the unlocking different stuff for your guns. I don't know. It's cool that when you unlock something in this game for your attachment for your weapon, it unlocks to other guns that are kind of similar to that. That's cool, because that way, you unlock it once and you have it. On the flip side, though, it took me like a stupid long amount of time to just get a red dot because, like, hey, I would go on it, and sometimes some things don't even tell you what they do to unlock. I don't know if I'm just reading that, but it sure seems like they don't even say it. And other times they'll tell you, like, hey, you got to level up this shotgun to, like, level 12. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to play with a shotgun right now, but I do want that sight, so I guess someone's going to have to play with the shotgun and get it. And it's a one-time problem. It happens, and that's it. But I think there could have been a little more clarity explained as to how that works. I think there could be a little more clarity explained as to how the minimap works, because I'm still not 100% sure when you're on it and when you're not. I've heard that there is either a bug or maybe it's intentional that, like, even when you shoot suppressed with Ghost, you can still be on the map. I don't know how that works. There's just a lot of little things that kind of add up to this game is good. The base game is good. The fun is there. Like Call of Duty still feels like Call of Duty. That part is still existent and still part of it. But there's a lot of other things around that need to be fixed and should be fixed and should never happen.